So here's an email from Nick in Maryland Heights. The whole process on Saturday, for the most part, was confusing. I just wanted to show up, state my support for Ron Paul, and bounce. 2.5 hours going over rules, procedure, and amending the Missouri GOP mission statement. This is why people stay out of politics. Missouri should have just had a primary.
They did have a primary. It was non-binding.
That's from Nick in Maryland Heights. Here's another one from Jared. Jared writes in, why do you talk about things that you absolutely know nothing about?
And this is what
sets Riz off.
This is what the crux of my argument
of your
is.
Beef.
It's not just that one. Well, continue.
Yeah, and this is not the email. It's even got Riz all worked up. He hasn't even heard
it's
this one yet.
Statements like that.
So why do you talk about things that you know absolutely nothing about? I was at the Jefferson County caucus as a Ron Paul supporter, and the GOP establishment made a mockery of the process and wasted everyone's time. We tried stopping them from doing two things that wasted 4 hours of time. They knew that we were outnumbered. They knew that they were outnumbered, so they hid or stole the list of names of attendees. Then they called for a roll call. How coincidental that they hide the roll and then called for a roll call. We were prepared, so we started re-credentialing in the entire assembly, and during this time, the parties with the GOP establishment tried to bribe us. They said that they would return the roll call if we gave them half of the delegates. Now, keep in mind, this is just a bunch of average Joes hanging out in the parking lot somewhere, or a park, or a church, or a school, and whatever. St. Charles was also ruined because of the GOP created a rule before the caucus, which is illegal. Videotaping at a public school is legal unless everyone at the caucus decides it is illegal. That did not happen. Please don't spread your idiocy. Once an avid listener, but no more.
Who said anything about a disagreement with that? We said it was a disaster.
That's what we said. I was just wondering.
We said it was the whole caucus thing is a friggin' joke as it is.
It just seemed like a bunch of World of Warcraft types, just a bunch of weirdos showing up.
So the reason...
who are these people? That's my thing.
So the reason we had caucuses... So there was a primary in February, and then there was the caucuses this past weekend. So I guess the legislature in Missouri wanted to get away from Missouri having their primary on Super Tuesday, so they made it in February. And then the GOP came out with these rules saying you can't move your primary. Okay?
So they didn't have a binding primary.
So they didn't want to, be lumped in with the Super Tuesday states, okay? But then the Republican National Committee, they made these rules that would strip Missouri of the delegates for voting in February. So they tried to push the primary back to March, but they couldn't do that because something wasn't signed over there in Jefferson City. So then they made the caucus thing.
So we haven't even gotten to the email that really has Riz all fired up. This is just a precursor to that, okay? So in just case you're wondering how the caucuses work, it's not just a show up and vote thing. The caucuses are part poll, part meeting. I know a lot of people don't even know what the hell they are, okay? So this is just a brief, Cliff Notes version of it, okay? But unlike in a primary, supporters of particular candidates are allowed to campaign on site. In fact, it's part of the whole process. So before any votes are cast, and the term vote is used pretty loosely here, supporters, surrogates of the various campaigns are permitted a few minutes to make a case for their candidate, okay? So this process is a way to sway people who are uncommitted at the last minute.
And as was the case in Missouri on Saturday, you actually had candidates showing up to caucuses, Rick Santorum showed up to a couple of the caucuses to sway people into his direction.
And then what happens after the speeches, the people who are there then write down their choice on a piece of paper. The results are counted, announced, and then fed to the media. But that's not the end of it, okay? And so the caucus doesn't even determine how many delegates each candidate receives at the national convention, okay? So that is a whole convoluted, multi-step process. It only begins at these little events like last weekend, which is more of a beauty contest. I mean, the caucuses will serve to elect delegates of the county conventions, where delegates will later be picked for the district and state conventions, where the delegates will then finally be picked for the national convention.
Right, so you're picking delegates to
what are you doing?
Pick more delegates to go to the convention in August.
It's crazy. All right, so that aside, now that you kind of know what a caucus is, and if you watched any of the news coverage from this past weekend on the local news, and you saw the craziness that was going on with these people getting what are you getting worked up about? What is to get so worked up about? I mean, I realize that you feel like you're, really doing something. I equate it to, when you're at the street corner and you want to cross and you hit the button to change the light. I'm convinced those don't even do anything. I'm convinced that you hit that thing and it lets you just believe that you're affecting change in the light so that you can cross the street.
Placebo effect.
You're gonna wait. Okay.
Now, what's the common thread between those two emails you just read?
The common thread
is both Ron Paul supporters.
Okay. But, it's just one of those deals, and I think it goes with no matter who you're supporting. If you don't agree,
you read.
If you don't agree, that's just, you don't know what you're talking about. And that's one of the things that just drives Riz crazy.
And which will lead to this email, which is the one you handed me before we went to commercial.
Now, before he even sent the original email, not the original email, his argument, this guy sent us an email. I'm not going to announce his name, and I'll tell you why here in a second. You'll understand from the email. To whom it may concern, my email is not intended to be made public. Please do not disclose any of my personal information with anyone. Do not share my name, desired occupation, email address, cell phone number, which I don't even think he gave us, nor political affiliation with any person. All statements are intended to be private and only available to Woody and Rizzuto. Please do not share any of the information I provided in any of my email communications with anyone. Well, suck it. I'm not giving your name, but we're gonna use your email as an example here.
Go ahead.
I gave you the email. I was gonna let you handle it, but it says.
Well, do you want to kind of go down? All right. Here's what I guess we had. What were we getting into yesterday as far as why Ron Paul was brought up?
Well, I said the whole thing is pretty crazy. You got the Ron Paul supporters, you got the Santorum crazy people, you got the Mitt Romney people. Obviously, Obama's just kind of sitting back waiting for that whole thing to shake out on the Republican side. And I said, listen, as much as I think that Ron Paul has some good ideas on some issues, the guy is unelectable. Because whether you like it or not, we're in a two-party system.
And we didn't go into it. And I believe I said, right. Ron Paul's foreign policy issue is kind of a joke and the way he stands. Well, apparently that's what set this guy off.
And we also said that, politicians are a-holes anyway. I think it just comes with the uniform.
And then here comes the email from the guy saying, because we don't agree with him, we are not well-read and we don't know what we're saying.
All right, so Riz has the email.
That's the biggest bull. Just because we don't agree with you? Just because we don't agree with you, that means we're not educated, right?
Yeah.
That's what that means.
We can agree to disagree. And maybe you can think that we're stupid.
This guy actually quoted me. Riz, Ron Paul doesn't have the greatest foreign policy ideas either, just saying. And he says, of all the things you guys said, this is the one statement you actually pissed me off on. You must not know a damn thing about foreign policy, just saying. Just because I don't agree with you doesn't mean I don't know about Ron Paul's foreign policy, how actually people are calling it dangerous. How this is the guy, Ron Paul, this is the guy that said that if you build up America's national defense, you're a warmonger. How this guy is like a strict isolationist, okay, that doesn't want to get involved in any other foreign countries. The guy that would go on Iran TV and bitch about U.S. foreign policy. The enemy, this guy is on the enemy's TV, bitching about U.S. foreign policy. This guy doesn't think, oh no, Iran's not building nuclear weapons. It doesn't matter if they wipe Israel off the map. No big deal. We're not getting involved. This is the same guy. This is the same guy. This is all right.
Did I not tell you he'd get worked up?
This is the same guy that blames America's foreign policy on 9/11 and has no statement saying
Don't swear.
I was going to.
I know.
This guy doesn't blame the terrorists. This guy blames America's foreign policy on the towers coming down and all the events of 9/11. You don't think I know anything about foreign policy? I read a hell of a lot of stuff.
It sounds like you do.
A lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And because I don't agree with this a-hole,
now what about,
means that I'm not a well-read person?
Now what about the one where we said that he was just an unelectable guy? I saw that he brought that up in the email.
Well, how about this one? All these politicians are a-holes anyway. And he says, for the record, Ron Paul isn't an a-hole. He came to Congress because he looked at what was happening and saw it as corrupt. Here's another Ron Paul thing. He's against earmarks, right? Slipping those little things into bills.
Sure.
You get stuff for your district. He's so against it, but yet he had, I believe it was $150 million worth of earmarks last year alone and almost $400 million the year before.
And this is why we say that politicians are a-holes anyway.
They're all a-holes.
They're all the same. It's like you think that you're working for a
corporation.
They're
all the same.
Yeah, all corporations.
But just don't say that I'm not well read and I don't know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about. We just didn't go into it yesterday.
Get him,
because
Riz.
this is not a political. If you want to listen to the politics stuff, turn on 97.1.
Except for
by
this
all
segment.
means, except for this segment.
Yeah,
but this guy wants it addressed.
And so much more than politics.
Oh my God! It just gets my blood boiling when somebody says I don't know what I'm talking about.
Can I say this?
I clearly do.
Can I say this just for the record? This is not so much a political segment. I know it sounds like it. This is just more speaking to the issue of
you
the
don't
people
think I know what I'm talking about?
Right. Riz is just stepping up to your challenge that he doesn't know
I know what I'm
talking
talking about.
He's formed a different opinion than you. Okay, sorry.
Okay, I may have a different opinion than you. Fine. But that doesn't mean I'm not well read. I'm just saying. It's like if I don't like Radiohead, doesn't mean, oh my God, a Radiohead fan thinks I don't know music. No, I just don't like Radiohead. I just don't like Ron Paul. Doesn't mean I don't know about it. That's it.
Wasn't there something in here about stop getting your here?
This
don't
one.
It says
I highlighted this too.
Listen to Ron Paul speak for himself. Let him explain why he's right. Don't go to MSN, NBC, CBS, Fox, or any of that bias crap. Go to ronpaul.com.
Because that's clearly not biased, right? RonPaul.com is clearly not biased for Ron Paul, right? Come on.
I love it. Don't go to all that bias crap. Go to ronpaul.com, dailypaul.com, or
Ron Paul. They're
20.
clearly objective, right? I'm sure they present both sides of the case, right?
Oh, man. Now, to be fair, he also said, I'm not one of those punk-ass bitches who says I'm never going to listen to you again. I still will because I enjoyed the show.
All right,
just thought it was pretty douchey to go talking about stuff about a guy you obviously don't know a damn thing about.
314, 2 in a row. Shut up, Riz. You have no idea what you're talking about. Now, I don't know if you're being... I don't know if you're fooling around. Or...
Yeah, I think they're...
Listen, I said my piece. It's fine.
I think they're being sarcastic at this point.
636, who freaking cares? Move on. I care. And you know, when you get your own radio show, you can do whatever you want. Talk about whatever you want on your show.
We should do a Riz Week in Rage.
But I don't like...
You know what?
I'm actually like shaking.
It's good for you, dude.
It's that kind of stuff that just pisses me off so much just because I have a different opinion than you. Well, you're obviously not well read.
It's good for you to get it all out. Like Donnie. It's good for you. Just let it all out.
I actually feel worse.
No, you don't.
I actually feel better.
So again, to recap, you can't just say that somebody is uneducated. Maybe they have just read all the same things you have read and formed a different opinion from said facts and materials. That's all. We can agree to disagree.